And your mom doesn't play.
Dale, va, dale, dale, dale.
Welcome to the Latino Slant Live, where we keep it fuerte on our opinions on movies, music, art, cultura, y más. Bienvenidos. ¿Listos?
That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
Gets me every time. Welcome to the Latino Slant. My name is Paulie. It is our Saturday Espectaculo panel that we put together. We got an all-star panel for you today. I want to do a couple things. I want you guys to do a couple things. I want you guys to take the link and share it. It's on Twitter right now. If you can retweet it, if you can put it on your YouTube pages or whatever it is, do it right now. That'd be great. Also, too, get us your top 5 and I will star it and I will read it later on in the show. Now, what we're not going to do, guys, and I much love to everyone here in the chat, is we're not going to talk about anything other than our top 5 movies. That's my only thing, because, you know, I have limited time with my friends here on this, that's on this panel. We can easily start going off on Henry Cavill, on DC, on James Gunn. Nah, none of that today, guys. And I want to tell you, and I want to make it really clear. I love you guys, but now's not the time. Okay, so we have 20 people in here early. I love it. Let's double it, let's triple it, and let's have a great time. Get me your top 5 movies of 2022 on the board in the chat, and I will star it. Well, right now, let's bring in our illustrious panel. You know him. He's on John Campia's show. He's got his own channel. I should have said that first. He has his own channel. The Post Geek Singularity. Ooh, how did I said that? I think I said that right. Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett.
Great to be here, man. You know, I always love to see you.
I know. I love having you on here. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Feliz Navidad. All that good stuff.
All of that back, you know, happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah.
And whatever you celebrate. Kwanzaa. By the way, I've always wanted to celebrate Kwanzaa, and I've never had anybody to celebrate Kwanzaa with. I just like saying Kwanzaa. I want to go to a Kwanzaa party.
I can't help you out, but maybe someone in the chat can. I don't know. I don't know.
I want to invite myself to your Kwanzaa party, whoever you are.
Well, if the Kwanzaa party entails tamales and cafecito and chocolate, then come on over.
Okay, then let's have our own. Let's culturally appropriate whatever Kwanzaa is and make it happen.
Oh man, let's do it all. Film critic is with us. She's incredible. She's been on the show before. You can catch her on the Daily Chela. I'm of course talking about Miss Rosa Parra.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on.
Burning question. Do you celebrate Kwanzaa?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Been loving what you've been putting up on the Daily Chela. Your review on Wednesday was on point, lady.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I saw the video. Thank you so much for sharing, and interesting thoughts you had on that video. So thanks.
Hey, you know, it's all good. It's all good. Are you excited? You have your top 5. You guys excited to share?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready.
Well, we got one last one to join us, but not the least, and just a lovely friend of mine. I think, well, besides Rosa, I've met both of you guys in person and we hung out. Mr. Kamran Pasha. Hey.
Hola, hermano. Feliz Navidad. And how do you say happy holidays? Felices
Fiestas?
Felicitas
Fiestas. I like that.
I've learned something new today. Thank you. And so hopefully when I one day retire to Granada, Spain, which is one of my goals, I'll have expanded my my lexicon. But I'm honored to be on here. This is going to be a very exciting show. There's some really great movies this year, and some surprisingly good movies this year. And so thank you for letting me come on and talk about it with this wonderful panel.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Getting people in here on the chat. I love it, guys. Keep sharing the link. So here's how we're gonna do it. We have our top fives, and I noticed there's a through line, which I think is fantastic. And then there's some movies that none of us picked from each other, which I think that's also amazing. R&B.
That's great. I mean, I have to say that this has actually been a pretty great year for films. Not a lot of them have done well at the box office, but there's been a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, I think it's been a great year for escapism, and those have been big hits. Those have been big hits, including what you guys have on your list. So what I'd like to do then is go through our honorable mentions first before we get into number 5. I think that would be a lot of fun. So let's go. Boy, girl, and then we'll wait. There's only one girl, so boy, girl, boy, Paulie. Okay. R&B. Go ahead.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah. Here's your honorable mention of the year.
My honorable mention of the year is writer-director Todd Field, who is an actor that worked for Stanley Kubrick in Eyes Wide Shut. The last time we heard from him, he made Little Children. The movie Little Children that came out in 2006. Hadn't made a film since, and this year he wrote and directed the stunning Tar that stars Cate Blanchett in one of the great acting turns of the year. And I really loved I loved Little Children. It was based on a novel by the guy who wrote The Leftovers, Tom Perrotta, I think his last name is. And I loved seeing him come back. I mean, I love the fact, they always say you're only as good as your last project, and in Hollywood, if you don't make a movie in 17 years or whatever, you're basically dead to the industry. So it was great to see him come back and make such a stunning piece of work with an incredible indelible performance from Cate Blanchett. So good on you, Todd Field. Welcome back.
Wasn't he in Eyes Wide Shut? Wasn't he?
Yeah, he was Nick Nightingale,
the piano player, right?
Piano player who told Tom Cruise about Fidelio. Yeah. The party. Yeah,
and I vaguely remember that film he directed, but it was good back in the day.
Yeah.
So that is your honorable mention, director Todd Field of Tar. Okay.
And to give you a hint, it ties into my list.
Oh. Ooh. Well, Tar and Cate Blanchett have been hearing wonderful things about that film. So definitely.
I think you'd really like it.
Yeah. I think. Well, Romy wants to see it as well. We're big Blanchett fans, so for sure.
She's amazing.
For sure. Okay, Rosa's honorable mentions.
I asked how many. You're like, as many as you want, and I think I went a little bit overboard here. So I just have 3 movies that I just briefly wanted to highlight. One of them being Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, it's technically my number 6. So just to get an idea of what my list is looking like from favorites of the year. Marcel, that movie is just so adorable. It's tender, it's sweet. Sometimes it's also thought-provoking, and it's just a beautiful look at family, friendship, and life. So in that sense, it's really a movie I highly recommend seeking out. Women Talking by Sarah Paulie. That movie is certainly a slow-paced, dialogue-heavy. Majority of the film, we spend time with these group of women, which, by the way, it's my favorite ensemble of the year. In this movie, they're so powerful. The dynamic between them, it's so, oh my God, so inspiring. But also you just cannot take your eyes off them. And this movie obviously touches difficult topics. They have conversations about. Sadly, I don't know if I can say this without you being banned, but SA. Hopefully, you know what I mean by that, and what these women experience in this religious secluded community. And we see different perspectives, different lenses. A movie that I thoroughly do believe it was it's better because it is written and directed by a woman. So all these female issues that they're experiencing is certainly not an easy watch, but an important one in my humble opinion. And then lastly, Bardo. I have to give Bardo a shout out because what Alejandro González Iñárritu does in this movie, sadly I'm not seeing a lot of love for it because it is getting a lot of mixed reviews because it's Iñárritu. That I guess that's his gig. Not everybody loves his filmmaking and his style and so on, but I personally loved Bardo. I feel it's his most experimental one, but also it feels his most personal one as well. And what he does here is just extraordinary. So, and I think it's currently streaming on Netflix. It just started streaming, I believe, yesterday. So if you want to seek that one out also. But yeah, those are the 3 films I just wanted to quickly highlight.
If I could give a shout out, I agree with you about Bardo. I interviewed on this week's Designing Hollywood podcast Anna Terrazas, who is the costume designer for Bardo.
Yes.
And we had an incredible chat. She's a delightful, very talented woman. And you can hear that on the John Campea channel under Designing Hollywood. And she was wonderful. I loved speaking with her.
Well, and I will say this: I think Iñárritu is one of the great filmmakers of our time. He's a true artist, but as a result, he's an artist that not everyone gets the art. And I think another example of that is Damien Chazelle, who I'm a huge fan of. Right, First Man is amongst my top movies of all time. I love that film, and I love La La Land. I didn't like Babylon as much, but I appreciate what he tried to do. Right, and so there are great artists out there who are just they're going to keep pushing the edge for us, like Iñárritu, and so I'm glad they're there.
My quick question is, as a why should I see women talking? Because it completely doesn't appeal to me at all, Rosa.
Yeah, I understand why it wouldn't appeal to a lot of let's say to a lot of men out there. But I do think it's a conversation worth witnessing. Not only because I think it's the best ensemble out there, but because of the different perspectives that come in regard to this subject matter. You have people who somehow, some way, I don't want to say sympathize, but they would rather forgive the person doing these atrocities because of the religion, because of how they were brought up, because of the culture. While there's other women who would rather just leave. They just want to leave. They want nothing to do with this. Others want to stay and fight a system that's sadly been built not necessarily to benefit them. So I understand why it's not appealing. I get it, but I think it's certainly a conversation worth witnessing. I know I probably did not convince you, but
it's about I'm going to be frank. The reality is a lot of men have felt, certainly in the last decade, that they were preached at. And rather than being engaged in a conversation that could open hearts, right? And so I hope the movie is, as you described, it would be more useful for it to be something that engages conversation, because nobody wants to be made to feel this is all your fault, man. And and it sounds like this is more specific to the experience of women in a particular community, right?
Correct.
And then maybe you can analogize that to other issues. So I thank you for that, but understand that a lot of men are at a place where there is a resistance from the way these conversations have been held in recent years.
No, and I completely get it. And it just quickly, there is this the character of Ben Whishaw, who actually is there kind of like as a symbol of exactly that. Not all men are the same. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Okay, let's get to Cameron's honorable mentions. Screen 5 with the lovely Melissa Barerra.
Well, this was going to be my honorable mention. I was debating whether I was going to put it in my top 5. It's a very controversial choice. A lot of people didn't like Scream. A lot of people didn't like Scream because they'd heard that it was a woke leftist movie, and it's not that. And so I mean,
terrible woke leftist horror film.
Yeah, but that's to Bill, we're just talking about Rosa. I think people have been conditioned. The fans have been conditioned. The moment they hear that anything is quote unquote woke, they'll just resist and fight it rather than enjoying a perfectly entertaining. I love horror movies. I love slasher movies. It's because of Scream that I am a screenwriter today. The very first movie that I wrote as a writing sample that got me my first agent, was inspired by Scream. It was a teen slasher. And I saw Scream. I loved the original Scream so much. I wrote sort of it was actually, it had a mystical element to it. It was more like Insidious. It was about astral projection, right? But it had this killer in it. And that got me my first agent. So Scream is very important to me because I'm sitting here today because of Scream, the franchise. And, and I thought what they did in this movie was, unlike a lot of the subsequent sequels, they came back to what the original was trying to do, which was that it was intelligent commentary on society and with new thoughts, right? Because the problem with the sequels is that they kind of made all the comments of the era in the first movie. And so the sequels didn't add to it. Whereas now we're at a different place where we've had this thing where fans have become, angry at the system and angry at the sequels and all, angry at The Last Jedi and all these other things, right? And the movie references that. We're finally at a place where there's a new conversation about where the fans are, right? And how Hollywood, ruins sequels. And Melissa Barrera just shone in this movie. She just absolutely shone. I'm glad she's taking on the mantle. I'm sad that Neve Campbell isn't coming back, and I think it was a mistake on the part of the producers to not give Campbell a cameo or something in Scream 6. But that's, as Robert knows, that's Hollywood, right? But Melissa will be able to carry this on. And the young woman that played her sister, Jenna Ortega, was wonderful, and I'm delighted that two Latinas are leading this franchise forward. And I think part of that is also economics. The Latino community has been big supporters of horror movies, and the industry has woken up to that, right? And so it's great. And so I had the time of my life in there. It made me feel a lot like. I think the first movie will always be supreme, but it made me feel a lot like what I felt in that first movie.
Great choice. And I'm going to piggyback off that. As far as my honorable mentions, to me, this is the year of Ortega. It's Jenna's year. She's had an amazing year on film, and of course now on television with television with Wednesday. But on film, to me, everything she does, she stands out. She stood out in Scream. I absolutely was riveted with this little sister, and then with X. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. What a great character too. Like the timid sound girlfriend who's holding up the sound. She's fantastic. Me and Romy went to see Scream. We had a good time. If you're going to get into a point where you're overthinking Scream and not just being entertained, it's like, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
We had a good time. And that's all I can expect from Scream.
What did you guys think of the teaser for Scream 6?
I haven't seen it yet.
I have, so I'll be careful what I'll say. I don't want to spoil it.
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's interesting. I don't think there's enough in the teaser to tell me why I should watch this movie. I'm going to watch it because I like this franchise. I like Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, right? But it also threw me a little back to like Jason Takes Manhattan, if you remember that movie.
But I'm like, I wonder if there's like a whole cult, of ghost face killers that go out on one night and
would make sense.
Look, whatever it is, it's intriguing to me. I was intrigued by it.
Really fast, then, just to finish off my list. I just seen the movie. It is definitely probably top 10, but Avatar, I have to mention. It is a return to escapism. It's praising the family. It's praising fatherhood. A father protects. That gives him meaning. They kept saying that line, and I fell for it, man. I had an incredible time. I saw it in 3D, sitting next to Chris Gore. we were having a blast, man. I mean, that's what movies are all about. So those are my honorable mentions. You guys have any comments before we start with number 5?
No, I think it's a good list. Our honorable mentions are a good list.
The honorable mentions are fantastic, right? Yeah. A lot of fun.
I will make a comment about because I haven't seen the film by the gentleman who was in Eyes Wide Shut. I will say this, Robert. When you said that, I cringed because I had a bad experience with someone else that was an actor in Eyes Wide Shut this year. There was a woman who wrote a role on there, and I was on a YouTube channel with her just about a month ago. Her name was Julianne Davis. She had a small role in that movie, right? And I was on Kerry Smith, its channel, and the moment this woman found out that I was Muslim, she lost it. I mean, she's apparently a religious fanatic, and spent the entire live stream insulting Islam and me personally to my face on camera, right? And so it kind of, when I heard Eyes Wide Shut, which I think is a great movie, I started cringe. I was like, I just went through an Eyes Wide Shut alumnus.
That's your trauma. That's your trauma connected to it. That makes sense. But okay, so here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna start with Robert Myers from R&B's top 5. We're gonna start with his 5, then we'll go down the list. But people in the chat, I know you've super chatted, and I know you've sent your list. They're starred, and I will read them later on. But we do have limited time with my panelists, so I want to get to their list, and then we're gonna be sure to stick around so I read all your lists. And I will stop twirling my stash. I just put in some new wax, so I gotta get it. Gotta get tight, yo.
I'm liking the Poirot. I'm liking the Latino Poirot, man.
It's great, man.
You know what? Romy loves it. I know Mike, Mexican Iron Man, hates it, but
he's very funny.
But you're not going to kiss Mexican Iron Man, so who cares, right?
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Nimolo. Okay, here we go. We're gonna go. Oh,
2.
I don't want to.
Number 5.
Okay, all right. Real fancy here. Here we go. Here's your introduction.
And here are Robert Meyer Burnett's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise.
All right, there you have it. Your number 5 is Top Gun Maverick. Why is that, R&B?
Well, first of all, you talk about escapism. It feels. My whole thing about movies is I love films that have authorship behind them, and what I mean is that directors are in synergy, the actors, and they succeed in bringing an audience what they set out to bring the audience. This was a movie that I thought, from that perspective, succeeded on every level. It had, again, a basic, easy to understand story. Basically an old dog. Who would have thought Tom Cruise would one day be the old dog who's about to be put out to pasture? His idea of a fighter pilot. Who would have thought fighter pilots are a thing of the past? But with drone warfare, you don't need them, or so we think. And here he in the opening scene, he disobeys orders like Chuck Yeager, the days of yore, and basically steals his brand new plane because he wants to extend the program. Goes past Mach 10, and immediately I was just so cool. I was in this movie. I was complete. Ed Harris. Whenever Ed Harris shows up, I'm in too. As the admiral, and I was going to shut the program down. And this could have been, a retread of Top Gun, but it actually, I thought that it had the passing of the torch elements, and the keeping your place, being relevant still in the world. And then I really liked all the new characters. I liked the very chaste romance. I mean, I would have liked to have seen Jennifer Connelly. Obviously she's beautiful, but I liked the fact they didn't, there was a nice romantic scene between the two of them. You felt real very emotion.
PG.
Yeah, it's very PG, very PG.
Yeah, and the daughter shows up and you got to hide. I mean, him like sneaking out like the
teenage.
That was great.
All of it, and then the scene. I have to say, I was absolutely emotionally moved by the scene with Val Kilmer. Oof. I didn't expect that, and it was the fact that even though they incorporated his actual physical ailment, and the fact that cancer took his vocal cords, they put that in the movie, which they didn't have to, but they did, and they made it work. And then ultimately, the aerial photography was like nothing I'd ever seen before, and I had a smile on my face the entire time watching this movie, and to the point where they didn't even identify who the villains were.
Right.
Which I thought was actually a bold choice. Like, they could have said it was the North Koreans, they could have said it was the Iranians, they could have said it was the Chinese, they could have said it was any number of people, but they didn't. And it didn't really matter.
And they can sell the movie to all those countries.
And I'm sure they figured, like, well, what's going to happen? Because Chris McQuarrie was a producer and writer on this. He's like, let's just make it the Death Star trench run. And instead of the target being 2 meters, we'll make it 3 meters. And they gave us an incredible action scene, which almost bordered on the absurd. They're shot down behind enemy lines. And what do they steal? An F-14 Tomcat. And I, as a kid, even before Top Gun, I built many models of the F-14 because the wings would work. I built 1/72nd scale, 1/48 scale, 1/32nd scale. I love the F-14. And I knew it was going to be in the movie somewhere. But when they see it, I got to tell you, I felt like I was 8 years old. I felt like somebody made a movie just for me. And I mean, a grand, rousing entertainment, free of ideology, free of, it was just, here are these students. And, they put as much emotion in it as they could. Just a great time at the movies. And by the way, the 4K disc of the year, if you're a physical media collector. Oh, nice. My God. That and Dune are the 4K discs of the year.
Well, let's quickly get to Rosa's number 5.
Rosa Parra's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise.
All right, Rosa, you picked number 5. You have anything different to add what R&B said?
Anything else to add? No, I don't. Other than that I agree with everything Robert just said. And even though for me, I didn't grow up, I did grow up with the first Top Gun film, and I believe it was released a year before even I was born. So even then, I didn't have the nostalgic aspect to go into this film, yet it still worked for me. And I would be lying if I didn't admit that the beach scene was appealing to the eye. I can't say it was not. But you know what? It does have the rewatchability factor. I was initially embarrassed to admit it, but whatever. I watched this movie 12 times in the movie theater. So
wow.
What?
12
That's
times.
Awesome.
Yeah, 12 times. And and you know what? I think it's getting re-released, or it did already. I'm probably gonna go watch it again because that's the best way to go watch it. Just add to that number. So yeah, it's just a movie that I completely loved, and I just loved everything about it. The story, it's heartfelt. I also teared up with the Val Kilmer scene and everything that they decided to add that into the storyline. It's just brilliantly done. And yeah. So I completely agree. Top Gun Maverick, my number 5.
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to Cameron's number 5. Here we go.
And now here are Kamran Pasha's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, and Jeffrey Wright.
The Batman coming in at number 5 on Cameron's list. What's going on here, Cameron?
Well, I love the Batman. Again, I'm Mr. Controversial because again, that's a lot of people pan the Batman. Again, everyone has a right to like or not dislike anything. I think some of that was just unhappiness in general with how DC has been treating these characters. And I think the reason I love the Batman is, to me, the freshest take on this character in a while. It's the only one that I've seen that I can remember that really gets into him being a detective, like he's the world's greatest detective, which was what the original tagline of this character was in the comic. And it gets into this guy's serious trauma. The other movies have hidden, like you see him as a child and watching his parents being killed, and it's sort of like this guy's crazy, but you're not seeing it in his face. And then his face is hidden behind the mask. Pattinson really brought in, this is an early Batman who is still deeply psychologically damaged and doesn't yet know how to hide that to play the billionaire playboy role that he's got to play. Because I think, commentators have said that that Batman is his true self, the psychologically damaged crime fighter, whereas Bruce Wayne is his persona. Well, he hasn't yet developed a persona yet, right, of Bruce Wayne. And that's the fun of this, is watching him throughout the course of this movie come to realize it ain't going to work. The morose, self, the hermit is not going to help him achieve his objectives. He's got to be two men, right? And that's where I think that movie was leading us towards. And the cinematography was stunning. I'm a New Yorker. I'm from Brooklyn, and I felt like this is exactly what would happen in a real Gotham, right? I mean, the moment when he emerged out of the subway in the shadows, the opening thing as Batman, I mean, that took my breath away, right? And
Very cool.
and to me, it was the most psychologically real of these films. And so I loved it. My understanding is that it may continue on a parallel track. We still haven't heard what James Gunn's going to do, but someone on my Patreon suggested that today that I have to go look at what he posted, but he suggested he had found evidence that James Gunn was going to at least continue this version as a parallel separate track from whatever else he's going to do with Batman as a separate character. I hope so, because I like this world.
I have to agree with you. I thought the film was a knockout. It's funny, I didn't put it on my list, but it should be. I mean, my list it changes all the time, but I think the Batman's one of the best movies of the year by far. And I agree with everything you said.
I was in it for the first half. That last half of it took me out, but I loved what that first hour was. I liked it a lot. I did see it twice. Okay, now here's my number 5.
Here are my top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Elvis, starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks.
Okay, let me just say number 5 is my and really my top 5. They're all like right there. They're just all incredible. For this one really surprised me because I didn't think I would be so emotionally taken away with the retelling of the music. The music, in a lot of ways, was reimagined by a lot of current artists, mixed in with the story. Only Baz Luhrmann can do that. Fantastic film, topped by 2 brilliant performances. Tom Hanks as Colonel Parker, and then Austin Butler. I've never heard of him before. He was wonderful. I just couldn't stop. I've seen it twice already. I'm playing the sound, the score and the soundtrack over and over again. My top 5 is filled with different elements, guys, not just story, score, music, other elements that make an all incredible cinematic experience. My only regret is I didn't see this movie in the theater. It's my number 5.
So I'm going to reserve comment on because he shows up on my list as well, and I have a lot to say about this movie.
Fair enough.
This movie was very important to me personally and very special. So we'll get when I want to hold back my comments to them. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Okay. So why don't we do
we get
this,
Rosa?
guys?
We get Rosa?
Yeah, she was Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Okay. I thought we're on 4. Are we moved to 4?
We're going to 4 now, and what I'd like to do is maybe hit Robert's 4 and 3.
Yeah,
that way we can kill
don't
it.
have a lot of time, Robert.
Yeah. He literally came in with it, and thank you again, RMB. I know all you guys are busy, but let's get to your 4 and 3. Is that okay?
Yeah.
RMB? All right.
My number 4 is
I'm
sorry.
gonna play it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm gonna play it.
Robert Meyer Burnett's top 5 films of 2022.
So this is a
Number 5,
recap. We already know
Top
he did
Gun Maverick,
number
starring
5.
Tom Cruise. Number 4, Decision to Leave.
I'm really curious about this film. Okay, let's just pause it right there. Number 4, Decision to Leave. Where is this from, Robert?
It's Korean, and it comes from Park Chan-wook. And he made films you might know his English language movies like Stoker, but he's an incredible Korean filmmaker he's made a lot of twisted films. He made part of I think it's an anthology film called 3 Extreme, and he made the Dumplings episode of that. Wow. If you haven't seen that, please do. If you like twisted things. But this is a really fascinating. He also made The Handmaiden, another Korean film that came out a few years ago that I loved. But this is the story of a detective who is trying to solve a murder, and he ends up getting involved with the murdered man's wife. And it is a fascinating film. Now, it's unbelievably beautiful, and the relationship in the movie I found this movie very compelling. I don't think the ending entirely works, where it goes entirely works, but the journey there was so captivating to me. And I, as a filmmaker, Park Chan-wook is one of the best. He's one of my favorite directors working today. A lot of those directors are Asian. Wong Kar-wai, Park Chan-wook.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan. And it's interesting. I think that as a film fan, one of the great things that's happened over the last 20 years is the rise of Korean cinema. Obviously, Parasite is a perfect example of that. But even before that, the psychological thrillers, the horror movies like I Saw the Devil. There's some really interesting. I mean, obviously, Squid Game came out of Korea. There's some really interesting things. I mean, the same country that gives us BTS and Blackpink can turn around and give us, movies like this, and it's really incredible stuff. And the society, I was lucky to go. I was in Korea shooting a documentary in 2018, and I had never been there before. And it is a country of contradictions, and I really love it. And this film is a knockout. It's long. It's not for everybody, but I think it's definitely worth your time.
That's great.
All right, well, let's continue. Yes, it's on my list to watch. Until you sent it to me, I had not heard about this at all. But
well, I was introduced to Korean cinema at last this year when I went to visit my sister, and she played Train to Busan for me, the zombie.
Oh yeah,
I was like, this is the best zombie movie I've ever seen.
It's so true. It's funny you say that. I just got the 4K disc of it this week. I love Train to Busan. If you guys haven't seen that movie, Train to Busan, whether you don't say, "Oh, I'm over zombie movies," you gotta watch it.
I'm never over zombies.
It's so great. It's so great.
Rosa, have you seen any of these films?
I've not seen Decision to Leave yet. I have seen Train to Busan. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's so
So
good.
yeah, I concur.
All right, let's see your number 3.
Number 3, Glass Onion.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Talk about controversial pick, my friend.
Well,
What's the
here's the
controversial
thing.
correct?
I wasn't necessarily going to include this, but here's the thing. Like Top Gun Maverick, to me, this is, I mean, I know even mentioning the words Ryan Johnson in a sentence leaves you open to, all kinds of horrors. But, excuse me, I have to say, I'm a huge fan of Ryan Johnson's. His first movie, Brick, which was this noir movie set in a high school, I loved it. And I loved episodes of Breaking Bad that he directed. And what I really loved about Knives Out and now this film is it felt like old school, like when I was growing up watching Death on the Nile, not the Kenneth Branagh version, but the older versions from the 70s. I miss adult mystery. Like I miss legal thrillers. I miss movies like Glass Onion. I miss that. And first of all, our man Ryan Johnson got paid a lot of money to make 2 more Benoit Blanc movies with Daniel Craig. But to me, this was a return to form. It was an entertaining movie. It's a sequel that I thought in some ways surpassed the original. But I loved watching all of these actors just tear it up. They were having a blast making this movie. And again, I could go, there's a lot of other great indie movies that are not on my list, but I picked this because I miss this kind of rousing entertainment. And it was nice to see Ryan Johnson created a brand new franchise. It's an original franchise. He wrote and directed these movies. And I miss, again, going back to the authorship of it all. I mean, is this movie going to change the world? No. Does it deal with social issues? No. But it was what movies are, which is a rousing entertainment. And I didn't have as much fun as I did with Top Gun Maverick, but I had a lot of fun watching this movie. And that, to me, sometimes that's enough.
I'm a fan of Knives. Was it Knives Out?
Knives Out.
Yeah, I love that film. And
I
it
did too.
Introduced us to Ana de Armas. I mean,
A dressed down, frumpy version of her.
I'm definitely not a fan of his Star Wars film, but obviously he's talented in other areas. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'll probably check it out now. I'll probably check
Yeah,
it out.
if you guys haven't seen his first feature, Brick, that stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, it's really, really fascinating because it's a noir. It's as if it's a murder mystery, even though it's happening in a high school, and everybody talks like they're in a 40s. It's really fun. I loved it.
Let's get to Rosa's number 4, and then we'll get back to Robert's list so we can get it before he leaves. How does that sound, guys? Let's rock it.
Rosa Parra's top 5 films of
So here's
2022.
her number 5, of course, was
Number 5, Top Gun Maverick.
Let's see what you
starring
picked
Tom
for
Cruise.
number 4, Rosa.
Number 4, The Menu, with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Wow. The Menu. Huge cast. Ray Fiennes, Johnny Legs,
Yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy. I don't know why I haven't seen this film. It's got like 2 Latinos in it. I am the Latino slant. I feel a little embarrassed. I haven't seen it. Tell us about this film. Number 4 on your list.
Yeah. You know what? The Menu, I watched it just recently. I think it was sometime last week. And talk about entertainment. This was certainly one that I had a blast watching. I went into the film under the notion that I was going to see a certain thing per se, or a certain aspect of the movie that somehow I had developed in my brain just watching the trailer. I go into this and I am mind blown, and I'm taken into places where I'm like, what in the world is going on? It's certainly not predictable in terms of how it ends, where it's going, why these characters are acting the way they are, or who they are in the first place. And I mean, the performances are all strong. They're all great. Anya Taylor-Joy easily being the standout for me, but Ralph Fiennes, come on, Ralph Fiennes. I don't think that man has a fiber in his being, and where he can even attempt to deliver a bad or even just a normal performance. That guy is just above and beyond when it comes to acting, and I loved it. I absolutely loved this film. I've seen it a couple times already, and I think it's currently playing in theaters. So if you guys want to go seek it out, but yeah, not what I was expecting. Took me by surprise. Absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend it. It is kind of a horror-ish kind of thingy, but you know what? I had a blast with it. It was very appetizing.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw it as well, R&B?
Yeah.
Oh,
And Ray Fiennes, man, he's the man.
Yeah.
He really is. He really is. Cool. Well, let's move it along. Let's get one in from
Let's get to
Cameron.
Robert running out of time.
And now here are
Let's-
Cameron
Hold-
Pasha's top, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz.
So that
and
was your
Jeffrey
number 5.
Wright.
Let's hit your number 4 real quick.
Coming in at number 4, Prey, starring Amber Mid-Thunder and directed by Dan Trachtenberg.
Prey, which I know you got to see in the movie theater, you son of a gun. Why is this on your list?
There's a lot of reasons. I actually went to see it in a special screening with a mentee of mine who's a Native American writer. And setting aside my personal enjoyment of the film, watching her excitement to see natives portrayed in this heroic fashion and in a great movie. It's not there for representation, right? This is the most fun I've had at a Predator movie since the original movie. It's something like what I talk about Scream, right? This resurrected the franchise for me, which has become very moribund. And even with bringing the alien, bringing all these things in, it was just the same old stuff. I'd never seen anything like this, right? You know, the Predator several centuries ago, you know, hunting human beings and being taken on by a tribe of Native Americans. And I worked with Amber Mid-Thunder on Roswell, New Mexico, and she's a superb actor. She's got a big journey ahead of her, right? But, you know, aside from any personal connection with it, that's not the reason. Her performance here was wonderful. And the journey of her character, again, people say, it's going to be woke because it's about oppressed indigenous people. That's not what this movie is about. No. And it's actually about her journey to learn how to be a heroine, because she isn't the Mary Sue we've been complaining about. You know, she's the one that figures out there's this supernatural or scientific, this creature. She's figured it out. No one believes her. And then she tries to take it on herself and she gets her ass kicked, you know, as you would expect. People are like, I don't believe this 90-pound Native American woman can take on the Predator. She can't take it on. And she gets her ass kicked, and it's her brother who has to come rescue her. And it's about a sibling relationship and how her brother teaches her how to become a hero and how you cannot take on the Predator. You can, however, outsmart it. And that's what she learns to do. And it just pulled me in. And the fact that they made a separate version of this movie in Native American language. they filmed a parallel version of this movie in Native language. That shows commitment. And so I love this film. I tell people, watch this film. It really made my heart soar about what is possible in filmmaking.
Real fast, if one of my mods can share the links to my panelists, that'd be great. Meyer Burnett, Rosa Parra, and Kamran Pasha, their YouTube pages and their Twitter, Patreon as well with Kamran Pasha. A great choice. I love Prey. I love Prey. We'll come back to it. And yeah, I should have waited, but let's get right to R&B.
Yeah, we're running out of time with R&B.
Yeah, let's get right. Let's get to your
Robert Meyer Burnett,
right?
Decision.
So we get 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. See what the man came up with.
Number 3, Glass Onion.
Oh, wait a minute. You gave us 3. All right.
We gave you 3.
Sorry about that.
Well,
Number 3, Glass
2 and 1. 2 and 1. Here we go. 2 and 1, guys.
Number 2, Avatar: The Way of Water.
Wow. Way up there.
And Robert Meyer Burnett's number 1 movie of 2022, number 1, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
There it is. 2, Avatar, 1, Everything Everywhere All at Once. R&B, take it away.
Well, first of all, look, I mean, I honestly believe that James Cameron, whether you love the Avatar movies or not, and I'm still waiting, other than people saying the exact same thing they've been saying for 13 years, it's Dances with Wolves, it's Fern Gully, in space, whatever. That might be true, but West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet. So I'm like, to me, James Cameron is doing nothing less than trying to save the planet. And he's doing so by he goes down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. He knows what's happening to our planet, but politically, nobody wants to hear, there's nothing worse than listening to an environmentalist bang on about the planet and what we should do. So what James Cameron is doing is he's making a series of films, grand pop entertainments that are easily understood, that are incredibly entertaining to watch. But he's hoping that this is his legacy, that he wants the planet, he wants people to watch these movies, love the hell out of them, but also understand maybe causing people's consciousness, even in passing. If he tells people, we have to save the whales, people are like, yeah, whatever. But if you do it in such a way that he does in Avatar: The Way of Water, some 10-year-old kid might be affected by this movie and grows up to have a different perspective and understand that we live in a closed biological system. When you litter or we dump arsenic in the groundwater or whatever, it's raining microplastics in New Zealand now. There's a reason why this is happening. And it isn't natural. And hopefully through these movies, maybe he's hoping to raise the consciousness of the planet. It's what he does. He's been pushing the R&D for the Hollywood, for the world film industry, all the way back to things like in The Abyss. The pseudopod sequence led to the T-1000, which led ILM to create the programming that Spielberg could use to create dinosaurs. And the 3D, the underwater motion capture in this film is astonishing. And anyone who's ever scuba dived in tropical waters, you're watching this and it is indistinguishable from reality. And it's insane. And I had a blast watching this movie. Again, it's a huge pop entertainment. And I loved everything about this. And yes, are there elements of stories you've seen before? Absolutely. But this is a heady, frothy mix of, this is like the greatest pizza you've ever had. And sitting in a theater, watching this film I'll tell you what happened to me when I watched this movie.
Yeah.
I'm leaving the theater and there's a man, we're different kinds of people, you could tell, different ethnicities. And he's standing in front of the screen, just looking at the empty screen. The credits were over, the lights had come up. and he's just standing staring at the screen, and I didn't really notice him. And I'm talking to my girlfriend, and I'm like, that was insane. Can you believe that? And he turns to me and he goes, right? That was insane. I can't believe what I just saw. And we walked out together, and his 2 boys were with him, and his wife was with them, and like his brother was there, and we all were in the lobby. I don't even know these people, and we're going over the movie, like, what is this scene? And when it was raining, it was like I was brushing the water away, and there's no water there because it's 3D. I mean, and here we're a bunch of strangers bonding over how much sheer joy that we experienced watching this movie in IMAX 3D. No one was going, well, that movie was woke or this. No, it was a bunch of people that went to see a grand entertainment in a theater, and complete strangers. I've always loved the fact that in movies, you have a bunch of people of different people from all around, all walks of life, all different ethnicities, sexualities, economic backgrounds. We all go into the same room together with smiles on our faces, and the lights go down. Hopefully you put your phone away and you're not talking. And we all get to experience a story together. And movies, the best movies, work for everybody. That's what the power of storytelling is. And I had just as well, maybe not as much fun, but bonding in that theater with a family that I didn't know. Yeah. That seeing multi-generations of this family all jazzed about what they'd seen.
And yet
it transported them away.
And yet that is not your number 1 movie. You're talking about your number 2 movie of the year. Your number 1 movie is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay, this Everything Everywhere All at Once, I was knocked out by the sheer creative audacity of this movie. You know, we had another multiverse movie, The Multiverse of Madness. And while I quite enjoyed that, I mean, I like the Marvel movies, this film is the multiverse movie of the year. And directed by the Daniels, I had no idea what to expect when I went into this movie. I don't think I'd seen it. Maybe I know I had seen a trailer for it. I just was knocked out. This movie was not hugely expensive. And it literally rested on Michelle Yeoh, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Ke Huy Quan coming back after, being gone for a long time. And I was just, it was different than Avatar, but I thought this movie was so wildly creative, and it made such good use of its performers, allowing them to seeing them in all the different guises they were in, depending on what universe was happening around them. I just adored this movie. I was like, to me, I grew up watching, I used to love going to see lower budget movies. Like I never judged movies based on their budgets, but Hollywood cannot make low budget movies anymore. Their business model won't allow it. They can't do that.
Interesting.
Unless it's a horror film.
Yeah. Well, horror is the only genre. But even then, you'd think that the studios would have their own divisions. But they acquire indie movies. Look at Smile. Yeah. Smile, one of the great success stories of the year. $200 million worldwide gross on a $17 million spend before marketing. I mean, that's extraordinary. Wow. That's extraordinary. But this movie was the same kind of thing. I mean, it shows that you can make great, creative, world-class cinema and not have to spend $100 million to do it. And I think that this movie was a testament to the creativity and power of cinema. And when people are allowed, to me, it should have been a studio movie. And it became A24's most successful film ever. Made over $100 million. And why the studios aren't focusing on going back and making low budget movies for a price, encouraging new talent and distributing things theatrically. If you do it horror or this genre, you can make money. Why do you have to spend $100 million and then you have to make $1 billion why not make a bunch of low budget movies that all make $100 million worldwide that cost less than 20? That's a good business model too.
They'll get back to it as the economics of this industry start collapsing in the next.
Yeah, they are. They're absolutely, and streaming is making that happen sooner than anyone thought possible. But
R&B, that is an incredible list. Looking at your top 5 and your honorable mentions, is there a pattern or looking? I know you said this was a great year for cinema. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, people always talk about the death of cinema, but I think that we're getting, as a result of streaming, people want to see films that are unique and I think people respond to the voice of filmmakers, and the Daniels had it. Sarah Paulie making her film that was on Rosa's list, having and seeing Sarah Paulie go from an actress in Adam McGoyan movies like The Sweet Hereafter, or even in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, and watching her rise as a director.
Right,
and
I forget about that.
it's great to see this kind of thing happen, and it shows that storytelling and cinema is as vibrant as ever. And we're now because of Netflix, movies like, I should have put RRR on a list because that was a knockout film too, from India, not from Bollywood, from Tollywood. And the fact that we're getting access to more world cinema, Iranian cinema. There's all kinds of great movies being made around the world, and I don't think there's ever been a better time than now. One of the great byproducts of the streaming era is Netflix is making sure that we're getting to see shows from all over the world that we wouldn't normally. I mean, how many Americans would have watched Squid Game if it wasn't put in front of them on Netflix? I don't know if they ever would, but then it became one of their most watched shows. So we're getting stuff from all over the world, and I'm so there for it.
Yeah.
Well, R&B, I know you gotta go.
Well, I hope.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to watch the rest of this because I want to see what Kamran and Rosa
because
and you say.
Some of the movies you mentioned appear on my list, and I want to share why they're important to me. And so I would love, I drop you an email. Let's get in contact after the screen because I want to talk about other stuff, but I also want to talk to you about some of these choices.
Yeah, and also, it's funny because I just realized I put Everything Everywhere All at Once, but my actual number one movie is Tar, which I don't know why. Well, I thought it was I'm like I forgot, and I realized I'm like, oh.
That's number 0.5. It's number 0.5.
Yeah, that's my point, which I'll get into later. But thanks for it was great to stream with all of you. I'm sorry I have to run, but this was great. This was so much fun.
We love you, man. Christmas party this week coming up. I'll send you the invite.
All right. I'll see you later.
Stream.
Bye.
We're here with Kamran Pasha, with Rosa Parra, and we're going over our top 5 films of the year. I don't know where we're at because we jumped.
I think we still got 3-2-1 for both of us.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we need Paulie's 4, right?
Oh, okay, good. All right. So let's read all. Let's read. I only have a few super chats. Let me read those, and then we'll throw them a video, and then we'll come on back. Does that sound good, guys?
Sure.
All right. I got a couple. Colt Seaman for $9.99. Obviously, the number one movie of the year is Bros. Hey.
Okay. I mean, it's had a fan base, perhaps not a large fan base, but it does have one.
Has anyone seen that movie here on the panel?
I haven't yet. No, it's on my to-do list.
All right. It is not on my list, but I actually did hear it was kind of funny. I think Gore was saying that it was kind of funny, but it just was made for too much money and it lost all that stuff. But thank you, Colt.
Well, I think in that case, it's an example of marketing, which I think made it appear that this is only going to appeal to the LGBTQ community, and it's not,
right.
It's not going to give any money outside. And again, that's that kind of marketing, which they've done a lot recently. Has damaged people from watching perfectly good films because they're told it's not made for me, right? And so, but in some cases, I've seen the fans have started using the same nonsense, like they wouldn't watch Ms. Marvel. Well, it ain't made for me. It's about Pakistani people. Well, that's it's literally like both the fans and the studios are going to this weirdo place where they're dividing up entertaining stories in a way that's not fair.
I think it's too easy to say it wasn't made for me. I mean, everything's made for you. If you love movies, if you love entertainment, it just again, I think it's a mismarketing. There's just some things that just aren't going to appeal to me that I don't want to see, and that's my right. But that who am I to say that's not for? This is this is for me. The Bros thing is a gay comedy and all that stuff. More power to more power to them, but it's probably not something on my list that I'll see. Okay, but let's move on. Shelly Lee comes in for $11. Her top 5. Number 5, Glass Onion. Number 4, Women King. Number 3, Wakanda Forever. Number 2, RRR. Number 1, Everything Everywhere. Sorry, Robert, I don't know Kwanzaa either. Posada though. That's a list. Shelly, thank you for the $11. Look at that variety on that list. Not bad. Not bad. There's a couple of there that are on my list as well. Charles W. Jansen II for $10. Thank you, buddy. Top 5, Top Gun Maverick, Bullet Train, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Devotion. I wanted to give that one a mention. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Its last makes top 5 by default. Hey, that's all right. This is your top 5, man. There are only new movies. Those are the only new movies I saw this year. Missed the others. That's fine. You know, your list is your list. Whatever you enjoy, you're gonna, that's who's to say, oh no, that shouldn't be on the list. That's ridiculous. And the Great Mexican Iron Man comes in for $4.99. Shout out to Rosa and 3 of my great and most beloved brothers in all of fandom.
Hola,
what's going on, buddy?
Mi super hermano.
Yep. And one more, Dr. F for what?
Fate.
Fate, Dr. Fate.
Dr. Fate with a 4, yes.
Fate with a 4. Okay, gotcha. Love Brick 2. All I can see now is The Last Jedi. And that sucks, right? Because for Ryan and a lot of fans, they're just never going to see his work because of The Last Jedi. And
I loved Looper. I saw it multiple times. I was so excited when I heard Rian Johnson was directing a Star Wars movie. It broke me when I saw it. And when Robert said right now that Avatar is not going to, or one of the films he said was not going to change the world, right? Well, The Last Jedi did change the world. It created a whole community on YouTube. We're all here because of this, right?
We're all here because of The Last Jedi.
It did change the world. So, the guy's a brilliant filmmaker. I will go to my grave wondering why he chose to. Maybe it was just the bosses telling him what to do and he didn't care why he chose to make those choices in that film. But for me, it has also made me unable to appreciate his subsequent films. Several of my friends who hated The Last Jedi really liked Knives Out. I am not going to go see these films because that experience was traumatic for me. And
Sure.
It's because I loved this filmmaker before. I felt personally betrayed. That's just my personal perspective. So.
Well, those are the super chats. Let's play a couple of it. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, everyone. Let's play a couple of thank you videos, and then we'll get back into our top 5 movies of the year. Sounds good?
Guess who's coming for the holidays?
Hey kids, it's me, Kevin Smith, and I got an announcement for you.
Looking for an innovative way to advertise your new film, comic book, or novel? Consider the Latino Slant. Inquire now.
That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
I mean, it's a public service announcement, that last one. Don't put your Baby Yoda finger in the socket. It's not good. It's not good. Thank you, everyone. I did star everyone that's in the chat. I starred your top 5 lists. I will read those later on. I promise. I want to hit the super chats and then, move on. We're here still with the great Kamran Pasha, the lovely and brilliant Rosa Parra. You guys got to check out her film reviews. She's on point. So, okay, where are we? Almost 60 people in the chat. Right on. I love that.
That's great.
Killing on a Saturday. You guys have been incredible. I think we're on my list, number 4. Let me play catch up. Here we go.
Here are my top 5 in Butler and Tom
Okay, I did
Hanks.
Elvis.
Number 4, Top Gun with Tom Cruise.
It's a nice little through line there, guys. It's got rewatchability. It kicks ass. It's emotional. It's got the great Lady Gaga song. I was thinking about this, guys, as far as what's the other character in the film, and is that it's the filmmaking of the jet fight of the jets, right? Like the sound, the imagery, the shots, the cinematography. That was a character in the movie, The Trench Run. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And tell you what, guys, it is a diverse cast without being diverse.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that for a second, because you know that's whole thing. Actually, I had she's one of my great members of my Patreon. I won't identify her because but she's wonderful, and she's also a minority, and she'd said, oh, it feels like they did the diversity thing, and I said, just remember, the U.S. military is incredibly diverse, right? There's a very large, what we would call minority population, and that's a historical progress for it, considering how we segregated troops throughout the World War II and all of that, right? And so, it's this movie was naturally both reflective of what the U.S. military can be, and also it was so authentic because you didn't care about these people's ethnicities or backgrounds. You didn't know or care about any of their sexual orientations. They were there as patriotic soldiers, and most importantly, they were there as cocky Top Gun pilots being given something that was too big a challenge for them to handle, and they were united in that. And I think there was a lovely, let me get her name right, the lovely Monica Barbaro, who was in this movie, I'm guessing Latina, and she was great, and she was sexy, and oh my God, I want to see more of her.
And you guys heard it here first. 12 times Rosa got to see the volleyball beach scene. Or football.
Yes.
Football.
Monica was looking good in that scene too. I enjoyed that scene.
She did, yeah.
Even Tom. It's like, like for an older gentleman to kind of like have his shirt off with the young dudes. I was like, you go, Tom. I was like, man, boy, look good, because that is not easy to do, to keep up your physique and your, as we're getting a little older, Cameron. It's a lot of work. But yeah, that it's a great film. Okay, let me just go on to my number 3. How about that?
At number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once, with Michelle Yeoh and a great ensemble cast.
The top 3, guys, for me really is they're all for me the number 1, because each of them touched me in profound ways and provoked me to share it with family, to rewatch it, to sit down with them. With this one, the first time I saw it in the theater by myself, I immediately grabbed Romy and one of our best friends. We went to go see it again, because it's so touching, and it's so bizarre too. And let's give those roses. Let's give let's all hail Michelle Yeoh, who's been a female leading lady in action films for decades. Jennifer Lawrence. Decades. And what she does in this film, it's different iterations of herself, of this character. She's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You guys got anything to say?
Well, it comes out on my list later on, so I'll save it for then.
All right. Okay, so where are we, guys?
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me bring it up here. And again, if you're just joining us, we're going over our top 5s. If you have a top 5, post it, and I will star it, and I will read it later. And if you just super chat it, I will read it even sooner. So thank you for that. Cameron, I think you're up next.
Yeah.
Let's get to you, buddy. Okay.
And now,
did we do your 4 and 5?
We did 4 and 5.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise as well as Miles Teller and Glenn Powell.
Anything else that you wanted to add with this film? I know we've talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. I mean, I think that what it was something that was necessary for Hollywood. It was a reset to old-fashioned storytelling, which is, this was a franchise from my childhood, from the 80s, right? And we've held back 40 years for it to come back again, and it felt like we were being taken back to the 80s. It was a respectful film that was patriotic, that was unifying, that was heroic, and it wasn't a lectury America sucks up. I'm an immigrant to this country. There's a lot of critiques you can make of this country. I've also seen much of the world, and everything else sucks even worse, especially the places that pretend to be better than this place. I've been to Europe. I've studied in Europe. I've worked there, and it's even more bigoted and racist and Islamophobic there. And so this is the best country on earth, and to my experience. And the fact that you can get a feeling of being proud of what America can be. Is it a perfect country with a perfect history? Not at all. But it has an ideal, which most countries don't have. Most countries are just, I'm there because of a historical circumstance of a bunch of tribes in this area and a language. This is a country that at least had a theoretical ideal, that it may not have always lived up to, but it has still that. And this captured that feeling of patriotism, which is different than nationalism. There's a pride that this movie inspires and makes people remember what America used to be in the 80s, right? It was the inspiring thing that made people stand up to communism and bring down the Berlin Wall, right? That's the feeling you get out of this film, and that's why it moved me so much.
I mean, how American can you get than seeing it 12 times? I mean, Rosa Parra, you are Miss America today.
Well, thank you.
But you're absolutely right, Cameron. This is uniquely American, and as what we said before, there's such a American, as far as the ethnic makeup of America is so multifaceted. Look at just look at this photo right here. Not to mention the other gentlemen that were in the film as well. I love Glenn Powell. I think he's going to be a star. He was in Devotion. That's a great film as well. And then Monica, like you had mentioned, and Danny Ramirez as Fanboy. Danny's blowing up as well in other films. So this is great. I mean, you got that pioneer, attitude. Maverick. He's a maverick. Testing the limits of who we are. He's fantastic. Good stuff. Okay. All right. Let me play should I play my number 2, or where am I? 4? Let me play one more.
Coming in at number 2.
Oh, this is you. Coming in at number 2. Let's read your number 2. Coming in at number 2
is the horror hit Smile.
Number 2. Smile. What's going on here? I haven't seen this film, Kamran Pasha.
This
is Kamran Pasha's list.
I've seen this.
Not yet.
I think this is the best horror movie I've seen this year, and best horror movie I've seen in a few years. Right? I actually not only saw it myself. When I went to visit my sister in Pennsylvania, I took her and her teenage son to see it. Right? It is scary. It is disturbing. Again, like any good horror movie, it uses all these old tropes you've seen before, but it puts them together in ways you've never seen before. And this idea, it explores something that's profound that I've never seen in a horror movie, which is the idea of the monster itself is a manifestation of trauma. It's like the trauma itself is a virus. It's a disease. It spreads from one person to the other. And in this form, it takes this horrific form here. And, one of the things that was very personal to me is I have members of my family who are schizophrenic. And this movie deals with schizophrenia as a central element of it, of the pain that a family member feels when one of their loved ones is schizophrenic, right? And that's a central element to this film. And it was actually very hard for me to watch those parts because it threw me back to parts of my personal life where I'd experienced some of the pain of the character. When we're not dealing with a demonic monster, we're just dealing with the monster of her life history, dealing with a schizophrenic relative, right? And that's what I said to my sister. I was like, she also experienced those things. It's like, this is going to be hard to watch for us. And it was hard for her, but it was actually in many ways catalytic It was cleansing, right? And it's a scary, 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 scary film, and that's why I put it at number 2. It's done something that I don't think a horror movie has done in a long time. The closest that came was It Follows, but this is deeper than It Follows because it's about the human psyche and about pain.
Well, I thank you for saying that. Now I have to see it because we too have those family members, my friend.
So you'll
And
understand
so we just vaulted up. You're saying that this takes the horror genre, and look at the horror genre can lend itself to real life scenarios that are brutal and horrific. Absolutely. Great job, Cameron. Rosa, do you want to say anything?
I've not seen it because I do tend to be very a little bit of a scary cat when it comes to horror movies. But I eventually I will build up the courage to watch it.
Sure.
I mean, it's scary. It's a really
Yeah,
effective.
yeah.
It's really effective as in a ghost story. It's very effective in that.
Yeah. That's fair enough. No, fair enough. I want to say hello to all the people that are just joining us. Pop Culture Minefield. Thank you guys for coming on by and letting your crowd come on over to our crowd. And all the Slantinos, all the members in the chat, go ahead and throw a Slantino up there to welcome everybody. Okay.
So let's go back to Rosa. I want to hear her films.
Yeah. So where are we with Rosa? I believe, what do we got, Rosa? What do we have left? 2 and 3?
We have 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, well, let's save the 1. Let's go 3 and 2. How about that?
Okay.
All right. So,
Anya Taylor-Joy.
all right.
And ensemble cast.
So here we go. Number 3 is coming up.
Number 3, The Banshees of Inisherin, starring Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell.
This is a great choice. This is incredible. I'm a huge fan of these 2 actors, but I haven't seen the film. Rosa, school
Oh
us.
my God!
School us.
Talk about a guy who's having a spectacular year. I mean, Colin Farrell, the Batman, after Yang, 13 Lives, and now the Banshees. Holy moly, this man. Different performances, and he's just incredible. And this story, obviously, it's a smaller indie movie. It's very it's a bit of a slow burn. There's no action sequences, no planes, no nothing. So it's very much a very dialogue driven film. But what really caught me was the fact that it's so simplistic. The story, the movie is literally about the end of a friendship, and that's it. But yet it's the writing, it's the interactions, it's these 2 actors, specifically these 2 actors, who just elevate such a simplistic premise up to a movie that engrosses you. You want to see what's going to happen next. You have it keeps you on your toes in terms of, okay, what's going to happen next, in terms of something happens. I'm not going to spoil it, that the actor or one of the guys says. So pretty much the premise is these 2 guys, the Brendan Gleeson character, just all of a sudden, out of the blue, just stops talking to the Colin Farrell character, and he says, you know what, I don't like you anymore, so just leave me alone. So we have the Colin Farrell character trying to just like comprehend what's going on. He wants to know what he did, if he did something wrong, what's going on. And it's this dynamic, it's the conversations, it's how they get along. And then eventually the extent that the Brendan Gleeson character goes to for Colin Farrell to leave him alone. And it develops, it adds layers to the story. Which again, it's mind-boggling to me because it's so simple. It's just supposed to be a simplistic story, but the scenery also it adds so much richness and texture to it. It's beautifully shot. The script is sharp, and it's no wonder why these 2 actors are getting a lot of critical acclaim. And I mean, they're being nominated everywhere in critics groups, the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, and all that good stuff, because it's a movie that it's worth watching. And that ending, it has one of those interesting, compelling endings, and it leaves you thinking about friendship and the purpose of having these friendships, and about being something as simple as being nice takes you a long way, but also can bring problems or bring these tensions in certain relationships, and it's just wonderful. It's easily one of my favorites. I've seen it a few times already just to make sure it stayed in that number. But man, what an incredible, I mean, the score is there too. It's wonderfully directed and just brilliantly acted.
Cameron, what I love about these lists is that we have the Top Guns, everything everywhere all at once, and then there's ones that are not Smile and this. I mean, I love sharing. I love sharing this stuff.
Well, that's what art is supposed to do, right? There's art that can be for the general population, and then there's art that is deeply personal, and there's art that takes to another level. I mean, and not everyone gets art or gets it at a certain time. I mean, you look at Vincent Van Gogh, right? He basically spent his whole life being told he was a failure and his art was garbage, and he died believing that. And then now if you try to buy a Van Gogh original, it's probably $500 million easily, right? Because and so he's considered the greatest artist of his time now. Art reflects so much about what's happening to the human condition, and often it takes time for the human being to process it.
Fantastic. Let's move on. Rosa, this is your number 3.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get your number 2. Here we go.
Number 2, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
And I spelled Pinocchio wrong, and I apologize. I was tired. I checked it. I was like, I already did the video. Screw it. Pinocchio. Rosa.
I remember being on, I don't know if it was the Wakanda Forever review, and I don't know if it was, I think it was you. I told you I just watched the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio. It's easily one of my favorite movies of the year. It stayed up there, and holy moly, I've seen this movie like 3-4 times already, and I fall in love with it with every watch. Yeah. Holy moly. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the reality that Guillermo del Toro directed a movie, a story that's been told so many times, yet it feels nuanced, it feels fresh, it feels like something completely new. He gave this story magic, and he gave it love, and you can see it. For a good amount of the time when I'm watching the film, I completely forget I'm watching a stop motion animation film, and I'm so invested in the story, and it's just so mind-boggling to me that it's not surprising, don't get me wrong. I know the brilliance of what Guillermo del Toro is, but this is what art is. Different perspective, different background in terms of filmography. He is such a horror monster guy, and we see all that here. Something that I like to label as the Del Toro-esque of it all, with his creatures, his designs, his stories. When Geppetto is creating Pinocchio, you have this Frankenstein look to it, and it's just stunning, visually stunning, and it's one of those very few films that has it all. Voice acting, animation, visually it's gorgeous. The story, it's just there. It's simplistic in terms of, it's of course Pinocchio, but it's more emotionally invested. I cried several times, and it's just a story about, like they say in the movie, imperfect sons, imperfect fathers, and it's something that we rarely see nowadays. And I mean, the score, oh my god, that score, Ciao Papa, that song has been on my head since I watched this movie, and it's been replaying and replaying and replaying. What Alexander Desplat does with this score, it just elevates it to a whole different level. I think it's not only the best animated movie of 2022, it's one of the best films, period. And I've been advocating for it to get a Best Picture nomination because it deserves it. I just watched, there's like a 36-minute video or clip or something on Netflix about the making of the movie, the behind the scenes and everything it took to do the film. I think it's called Hand Carved Cinema. And wow, I was just mind blown.
Yeah,
15 years to make this film. And I think he says, if you animate the ordinary, you create the extraordinary, and that's what this film is.
Cameron?
Well, I haven't seen this film yet. Look, I think he's a brilliant filmmaker. Everything that Rosa is saying is correct. I have one critique of him. And there's a hint of that in what Rosa said. I think that he's someone that is more comfortable with visual storytelling than with narrative storytelling. I think that he doesn't grasp script as well. And I think that with time, I hope that he will learn that screenwriting is as important as all the wonderful touches that he brings that are uniquely him. I think Peter Jackson understands that better. Peter Jackson started off making genre films, zombie movies, right? All these things, and then he goes off to make Beautiful Girls, and he makes Oscar-winning dramas that understand storytelling. And so I hope for Mr. Del Toro that he starts trusting screenwriters more. Because I think that will just elevate him even further as an artist. That's it. That's what I had to say.
No. Sorry, I had to share the video before I could unmute myself. Did we get to your number 2? We got Smile.
Yeah, Smile.
I think we're now ready for your.
And now
number
here
2.
are Kamran Pasha's top 5.
Let's move on to Cameron's number 2, guys.
And Kamran Pasha's number 1
Oh,
movie
wait a minute.
of.
Oh, wait a minute. That was your number 2.
That wasn't my number 2. So yeah. So
Okay.
number 1.
All right. So the Kamran Pasha number 1 film of 2022.
The year Elvis, starring Tom Hanks and Austin Butler.
All right. Kamran
So-
Pasha. Why is Elvis number 1?
So this is the movie, Rosa. I didn't see it 12 times. I think I saw it 5 times, and I did see it in the theater. And I loved this movie so much. It hit me very deeply. I didn't know much about Elvis. After this movie, I went and got biographies of him. I went and got some of Elvis's music that I hadn't heard. And this movie, there's been a lot of biopics of Elvis going back to shortly after he passed away in the 70s, right? However, this is the first movie that captures something that was central to his identity. That
You're muted, Paulie.
I'm now film, which is
okay.
I'm back. I'm sorry, I froze.
You're
The
back?
universe doesn't want me talking about Elvis. It's a conspiracy.
Central to your identity. Let's go
Yeah.
back to that. That's
No,
where it
but
stopped.
so what was unique, what was so central to what Elvis' identity was that has never been portrayed is that he was essentially the poor white kid raised in a community of black people, right? And got all of his music from that and was very deeply invested in the community. And one of the most shocking things I heard from people that refused to go see the film, younger kids were like, I heard Elvis was a racist. That's the exact opposite of what he was. That's the exact opposite of what he was. He dedicated, he was a devout Christian, and he was also, he was more comfortable with black people than white people, and he elevated black artists. And I went back and I read an interview that he did in Jet magazine in 1957 that Elvis Presley, who was just becoming the biggest star on the planet in 1957, did an interview with Jet magazine.
Wow.
And he credited all of his stuff to black artists. He said, rock and roll isn't me. Rock and roll, and he lists the artists. He's like, rock and roll is all these black artists. They do it better than me, right? I'm mimicking them. He said that in 57 to Jet magazine. And so he dedicated his life to really advancing civil rights, in ways subtly behind the scenes. That movie shows that Colonel Tom Parker, his manager, didn't want him getting involved in politics, right?
Yeah.
If
Anything, it was Colonel Tom Parker that was a little bit of a,
Yeah, that had, he was, to him, race was something he could use to make money, right? And so that was his perspective. But, there's one of the greatest moments, and this movie is great, in the sense it captures how Elvis created the modern rock star single-handedly. This phenomenon did not exist. What we associate now, we go hang out at a concert, people are screaming, all this stuff, people throwing, women throwing their undies at the stage, right? This all happened with him. There was no prototype for this. This kid, essentially this 18-year-old kid, is experiencing the rock star phenomenon as the archetype that makes it up as he goes along, right? And he's overwhelmed by it, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And yet he somehow still keeps a core of him that's moral, despite all the corruption that comes with that. And the most emotional scene in this film for me was the moment when we do his famous comeback special, right? He had been, he was huge in the 50s, early 60s. He kind of fell off the map by doing a lot of dumb movies, and then he'd become sort of a joke by the late 60s. and then he does this comeback special. I believe it was on NBC, and he does a comeback special Christmas show, and it culminates with a song that Colonel Tom Parker didn't want him to do, a song that he had specifically had written for this occasion, which was a song, "If I Could Dream." Right? It's a song that basically is an answer to Martin Luther King's "I have a dream," right? Because King had just been assassinated. Yeah, I have a dream speech.
And he just was assassinated in '68. Correct.
Right. And so he did this song, and Austin Butler captures him throughout. I mean, it's amazing how you forget you're watching Austin, but you think you're watching Elvis, right? Yeah. And he captures the body language, the tone, and the essence, the soul of it. But in this moment, he captures the passion of that song, which then I went back on YouTube and watched it. And it's this incredible song, which is saying, I have this dream. Why can't our brothers walk hand in hand? And why won't God answer that? Right. And it's this profound gospel song that had never been, he wrote it specifically for this. He had it written. He wasn't a writer. He had it written for this moment. And he did it in one take where you can see the tears in his eyes and his heart overwhelming at King's death. And this shook up America. This guy who had been publicly non-political, doing this song that shakes you to your core at the height of, Martin Luther King's been assassinated, Malcolm X has died a few years before, Robert Kennedy just got killed. This is the craziest moment in history. And he's doing this song of reconciliation when his manager's like, don't do it, stay out of this thing, right? And this movie hit me so much for that. I'm now on a journey of rediscovering Elvis, and I'm listening to these songs. Yeah, I'm listening to these songs.
The way I remember you raving about this film in the summer, I thought you were already an Elvis fan.
No, this made me an Elvis fan. I didn't know much about Elvis. Elvis. And now I've gone back. I've watched his Hawaii special on YouTube. I've got CDs of some of his greatest songs. I've got a CD of his gospel songs. Those are the only things everyone Grammys for. His gospel songs are incredible, right? But I'm listening to these songs. I'm like, dude, these are bopping, man. They're bopping in 2022. You can't stop listening to these songs. And look, this guy was an archetypal figure, and much like Marilyn Monroe was, someone that's essentially a cosmic archetype that comes into human form. And so this movie, if you haven't seen it, it'll blow you away.
It'll blow you away because of everything that Cameron has been saying, but also too of the hyper reality of Baz Luhrmann's lens.
Yep.
Which I like. I liked Moulin Rouge, Romeo and Juliet. I like that crazy, that pace too, where he doesn't slow down, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I love the beginning of this film. I can't get enough of this film. I think I've seen it like 2.5 times already. But also too, I just wanted to add, so it's great filmmaking, everything that Cameron said. The music is very purposeful.
Yeah.
Because they mix new artists, black and white, current artists singing Elvis's songs. Incredible. And it's interwoven in the storytelling in the film. Oh.
Yeah.
Because you're right, he was that. I mean, he basically was, he was that old joke. I grew up a poor black child. That was Elvis. Because his family was very poor. They were, and they grew up in the black neighborhood.
Well, that's why they had to grow up in the black ghetto, right? They couldn't live with the white people.
I mean, but it's such a disservice too. The shit that Elvis and his legacy has gotten with what Public Enemy, wrote in and I love Public Enemy, but it's like, you guys really I don't know what line you took or where you got your information from, but Elvis was anything but a racist.
They showed in the film that Fats Domino was his primary inspiration as a rock artist, and then he had the great honor of introducing Fats Domino when he was already the biggest star on the planet, and told everybody at a press conference, this guy's the king of rock and roll, not me, right?
Yeah, so great film. That's a great number one. Man, I'm having a wonderful time. Thank you for sharing that, Cameron. Thank you for your list. You guys want to let's watch your list all again.
We haven't seen Rosa's number one. Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it. To it. Here we go. To recap. Oh wait, let me play.
And now here are Kamran Pasha's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, and Jeffrey Wright. Coming in at number 4, Prey, starring Amber Mid-Thunder and directed by Dan Trachtenberg. Number 3, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise as well as Miles Teller and Glenn Powell. Coming in at number 2 is the horror hit Smile. And Kamran Pasha's number 1 movie of the year, Elvis, starring Tom Hanks and Austin Butler. Starring.
Great list, Cameron. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and for sharing it with anyone who's going to watch this. That's incredible, man. All right, Rosa, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Where did we leave off with you?
We did my number 2.
Okay, let's go ahead and recap right now then.
Okay,
Rosa Parra's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise. Number 4, The Menu.
I gotta see this
with
one.
Anya Taylor-Joy and ensemble cast.
The trailer looked great for it too.
Number 3, The Banshees of Inisherin, starring Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell.
Okay, number 2, here we go. Oh, wait, you did number 2.
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
And here we go.
And at number 1 is Everything Everywhere All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh, Rosa Parra's number 1 movie of 2022.
Wow, well, there it is.
Michelle Yeoh. I mean, Michelle Yeoh. She's just a legend. Oh my God! Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Man, what a inventive and creative film. I think I agree with everything that Meyer Burnett said when he was talking about this movie being his number 1 as well, and with the notion that we see such a complex movie, inventive, it's quick, it's out there, it's bonkers, but also it's emotionally effective. It's and the only reason why it's literally on my number 1 is because personally I connect and I relate to the mother-daughter relationship here, as a daughter, as a mother of daughters. And I mean, for there's this scene that if I were to read on paper, I would immediately think this is not going to work. But that rock scene, it's not supposed to work.
Oh.
And it broke me. Not a single word was said. It was complete silence. Yet you just have 2 rocks with googly eyes and subtitles, and it works. And for that alone, I think that's why it's my number 1, because it makes something that it's not supposed to work, and it just emotionally moved me. I've seen it several times. I was very lucky to see it with my oldest kid, and man, it was out there. It's just incredible. The acting is there. It's so quick, and it's so like it's the multiverse of the best representation of multiverse. I also agree with that statement. And the acting, the costumes, the makeup. Oh my God, those makeups. Everything. It has everything, everywhere, all at once, and I loved it.
And these images are of Michelle Yeoh's different characters in the film.
Yeah.
This was, let's not forget Jamie Lee Curtis was great in this.
Yeah, Stephanie Sue, man, she's being massively recognized for her performance, but she's also to stand toe to toe with a Michelle Yeoh. It takes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great list. I love it. All right. Let me bring up mine, and then we'll take it from there. Oh man, I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. It's been our top 5 countdown, top 5 films of 2022. We had Meyer Burnett earlier on. You can always replay and watch his. And Kamran Pasha and Rosa Parra have been so kind to share their list. It's good to talk positive about entertainment for the whole stream.
We are getting better. We've complained for a long time that movies suck and this and that and blah political blah 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 blah. This is a great year for movies. After coming out of the last several years of a crisis worldwide, we needed an escape. We needed a release. We got some great ones, and I think more great ones are coming.
Okay, you guys ready for my 2? I got 2 and 1. Let's do it.
Here are my
recap. Here we go.
top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Elvis, starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks.
For those same reasons.
Number 4, Top Gun with Tom Cruise. At number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once with Michelle Yeoh and a great ensemble cast.
Yeah.
At number 2, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
I mean, I could cry right now. This movie is so beautiful, and I was holding back on what you're saying about your critique of Del Toro, which I agree, but he got it here, right? He got the dialogue, he got the character development, and it is a tried and true story. But he goes deeper with it. When I was done, I was literally in tears watching the trailer, watching the closing credits. I saw it in a movie theater, even though it's on Netflix. And I called my father right afterwards. I called my mother right afterwards. It is so profound, this story. And yeah, not to mention that you're basically watching a cartoon, guys. Stop animated. Stop motion animation. And I know he took forever to get this done. And they also had a team in Mexico, a team in Oregon, 60 sound stages going on at the same time, something insane. The music is incredible, the score, the singing. Ian McGregor sings. Ian McGregor is Sebastian J. Cricket. Oh my God. Christoph Waltz is Volpe. And then you had this kid playing Pinocchio, and it was just wonderful. And yes, Ciao Papa. Oh my God, I can listen to that song over and over. It's so profound because there's so many great messages that they tell you, and really it's just that life is fleeting. Enjoy it now because we are gone, and I cannot tell. So yes, I highly recommend Pinocchio. If you can, go see it in the theater. I've already seen it again in turn it up a little bit. I already saw it again on Netflix. Wow, I want to take Romy again to see it. I will say two more things about this before hitting my number 1. Guillermo lost his mother in October, and it was his mother. I guess the story is throughout Guillermo's life that his mother gave him Pinocchio dolls. They had a very strong connection. So he's been wanting to do this film, and yes, like what Rosa said, that it's very much like this odd boy out, like this Frankenstein monster, which I think was great how he came to life. And one last thing is that Guillermo made it very Mexican in as far as the duality of life and death and how we love and laugh at it all, and was just, I can't wait to see it again. I just like with all these films, my top 5. I can't wait. And it's something to share and beloved. Okay, here's my number 1.
Such a great soundtrack.
Yes, it is.
And my top number 1 film of all year from India, S.S. Rajamouli's R.R.R.
Raju! Akhtar!
All right, it's not a big surprise. Um, how can I add to what I've already have said in regards to this film? It's everything what other people have said prior. What I have done, I've seen it several times in the theater since then. I've shared it with family. We've had sit downs and watched the film. Um, Family members of different kind of like political backgrounds, and some modern, some not. First reluctant to watch it with me, and then at the end they're cheering. It really brings family members together as well. And I cannot speak enough to how masculine this movie is also. That these and it's a wonderful also to tale of friendship of men with nothing else that our perverted American senses have at times. Of course, it's entertaining. The action is just over the top. It kicks ass, and then there's incredible music, which I really hope that this seems that this movie is getting its due with all the nominations and all that good stuff. Um, my I've said this before. I hope the director Rajamouli stays away from doing deals with Hollywood studios, and let him go do his movies and let Hollywood take care of distributing or whatever. But I know he just signed with, I think, CAA, Cameron, or something like that. I just don't want him to be poisoned by Hollywood, if you know what I mean.
Well, as someone from the subcontinent myself, and who has often been approached to be involved in projects related to that, I have found that there seems to be a very and I'm going to use Chinese wall, for India, but there seems to be a Chinese wall between Indian filmmaking and Hollywood. They're almost like a mutual decision that people don't cross those lines. Priyanka Chopra was one of the very few actresses that briefly came over and became a Hollywood thing, right? And then she's gone. She's gone back to India, right? And part of the phenomenon is this. In India, these directors and these stars are literally like gods to a lot of people. The level of fame and power and success they have in their own community and globally, because Indian cinema is a global phenomenon. You go to Russia, you go to Moscow, you'll be able to watch Indian films, and people are packing the theaters watching them, right? So it's for them coming here and being the number 2 brown guy in the system, not worth it. Not worth it. Good. And that's true for directors as well. I think he'll just be offered, let's do this pandering movie that we can say we have an Indian director on, rather than something that from the heart, like this film is from here. So.
Yeah. And I am a little surprised it didn't make your top 5, Rosa.
I think it's on my top 15, not 5. Yeah.
All right. She's got all those high-end dramas in her 10. Top 10.
Yeah. I'm one of those. What do people call? One of those critics who drinks bohemian wine and listens to classical music, and yes, absolutely.
We need more of that. We need the balance. We need films that are thought provoking and that break out of the patterns that we're in, and we also need dumb entertainment. We need both.
Yeah, we need everything. A little bit of everything. Yeah.
So those are our lists, everyone. If you're just getting here with us, we're now going to read some of your top 10s and top 5s, and you can always hit the replay. The great Kamran Pasha is with us, and Rosa Parra, film critic. Thank you guys so much. Check their links out and all that good stuff. I'm a Patreon member of Kamran Pasha's page. It's just, bro, you tear it up, man. I love it. As well as Rosa's very honest reviews. So check her out as well. Okay. Charles W. Jensen for the second for $5. Thank you. Definitely interesting conversation. I have homework to catch up on all these films. Yeah. Hey, there's a couple here that I'm going to see now as well.
Go see Smile. There was someone in the chat, a lady who was also talking about, she also has schizophrenia in the family, and she was dying, maybe too hard to watch. I actually had that conversation with my sister. I was like, this might be hard for us based on our own experiences, but when she watched it, she found it cathartic. because it's the first time I've ever, I mean, yeah, Beautiful Mind was like that, right? Beautiful Mind, but you know the whole movie is going to be about that. This, you don't expect that. You don't expect this horror movie is going to be about a child dealing with a schizophrenic parent. You don't expect that, right? And that's why it actually allows you to be cathartic, because it puts it in this other context.
I also want to just say one more thing about RRR and Indian cinema is that the Latino slant was exposed, and we got to share to an entire new community of subscribers who are still to this day great to be here with Latino Slant. We've gotten to see more Indian films, and we've gotten to recommend a lot of films from Latin America. So thank you guys for that. But now let's get to your top fives. Brandon Barr, Top Gun, Pinocchio, The Whale, The Banshees, RRR. Special mention, Unbearable Weight, and The Northman. That's a great list, Bryant. If you guys have anything to add, just chime on in. I cannot pronounce your name. I'm just gonna say SJ. Thank you so much. I'm from India. I'll give him a top 5. RRR, KFG Chapter 2, Vikram, and Kantara, Vikram Vida. I've seen everyone except for your number 5, and I loved Vikram. Vikram's a great action flick. I have to say Kantara is very unique, probably my number 2 Indian film of the year. Fantastic list. Brian McCann. Hey, Brian. Samaritan, Morbius, Troll, Top Gun Maverick, Bullet Train, Black Adam, The Gray Man, The Northman.
Oh, Northman was a great movie.
The Northman?
The Northman was a great movie. I mean, it's a very dark movie.
That's in my 10.
It captures the essence of what Norse culture was, which I think has somewhat, we don't really understand how visceral that society was, and of the Vikings, and it captures it.
Wasn't that on your top 10, Rosa, as well, or no?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a top 10.
Yeah, it's in my top 10 as well.
It's in my top 10 for sure. I mean, it was like 6 or 7. Werewolves Within, Shadowmaster. Great list, Brian, and thanks for these recs. I think out of these, I still need to see Bullet Train. I hear it's a lot of fun.
Well, you also need to see The Legend of Mala Jut, right? Which, if you liked RRR, The Legend of Mala Jut is the highest grossing Pakistani film in history that just came out, right? It's out of the Lahore history, and it's something I can only say because my sister just saw it and she said it's one of the most incredible movies she's ever seen, and she was blown away that because Pakistani cinema has not gotten much attention like Indian cinema has. Pakistani TV dramas. I've not seen it yet, but my sister, I trust her reference. She's like, this really is incredible, and the fact that it is a global hit and it's the highest grossing film ever to come out of Pakistan means it's hitting people. So I'll put a link in. Yeah, The Legend of Mala Jut. I'll put a link to the Wikipedia page about it. But I'm going to go check it out
right here.
Yeah, and it's getting incredible reviews. And I'm, as a Pakistani American, I'm delighted to see the industry is finally rising up to its potential there.
I love it. Okay, where were we? Charles W. Jansen II, Top Gun, Bullet Train, Devotion, no others. I did not see RR, the pirate movie, or Everything Everywhere All at Once. Fair enough. Wait a minute. Did Brian already got your list? That 70s rock fan, Brian, is here. RRR number 1, Top Gun. All Quiet on the Western Front. I hear that's amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I mean, I saw the original Oscar-winning film from like 1930, right? I've seen that. And that was incredible. And you're watching this movie, like, how the hell did they do these battle sequences in 1930 with this incredible? I mean, it looks like a movie made today, right? You can see why it won the Oscar back then. It's, but I understand that this new take on it is visceral and emotional, and it's interesting because the Germans are always the bad guys in these movies, right? And what's great about all Quiet on the Western Front, both the novel and these films, is that you now see it, at least World War I, from the German perspective of young German kids being rah rah rah, let's fight for the Kaiser, and how horrific war is when they actually experience it. The story itself has been one of the greatest anti-war stories of the last century.
Emergency Declaration, Where the crawdads sing. Okay.
Mm.
Thank
Well-
you. I did. And All Quiet is on my list for sure.
And my
Deleted
lovely
scene.
Taylor Swift sings in all the crawdad sings, so I gotta go see that. I haven't seen it. Yet.
Oh, of course.
I got a thing for Taylor Swift. I'm a Swiftie.
What about that Lady Gaga song from Top Gun? That's a beautiful song.
Yeah. But Taylor's my number one, so it's okay.
All right, there you go. Deleted scenes. All right, his top 5 as of now. Well, I mean, yeah, okay. Maybe you're gonna see. I get it. Avatar, Top Gun, The Northman, Black Phone, KFG Chapter 2, Bullet Train. It's a lot of action, some dark action.
I'm loving the love on Bullet Train. I haven't seen it at all, so it seems like some people really like it.
Well, we did have the actress on here.
Okay.
The Latina that's in it. That was a lot of fun. And
Rosa, did you like Bullet Train?
I haven't seen it yet. It's also on my to watch list, but I did see the Black Phone. I think it's on my top 20. And granted, when I say top 10 or top 20, take into consideration I've seen 150 films in 2022, so that's pretty good.
Wow.
I mean, as a horror fan, I haven't seen it, and I regret not watching Black Phone in the theater because I've heard only good things about it.
Yeah, I think it's on Peacock, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it you that said that the kids are Mexican or something like that?
Yeah, there's a Mexican American boy in it. I think I wrote about it in the Daily Chela.
Yeah, you wrote about it, and I didn't read the article. Oops. Black Phone, writing it down though. Romy loved it. She saw it in the movie theater.
Nice.
So that's cool. So thank you, Deleted, and we got one more from India, Vikram, RRR, Drishyam 2. Drishyam 2 I liked. That was good. I like that actor. He was in RRR as well. KFG Chapter 2 and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Wow, that's a list. Yeah, Kamal Hassan is the lead actor in Vikram. And it's part of a universe of some really cool characters. So great list, everybody. Thank you for sharing your list with us. I think that people are praising Bullet Train, which is cool, and we'll leave it at that. Let's wrap it up. Cameron, closing thoughts on our lists and movies of 2022.
No, I mean, I think we've said so much here. I've said a lot, and I just want to thank you, Paulie, for the opportunity to share these things. It actually gave me a chance to revisit and rethink about this year, and that's what movies do, is that we contextualize them in our lives. And I went back and where was the world when I was watching Elvis? Where was the world when I was watching Smile? Right, because this world's been changing a lot. Every few weeks it changes pretty crazily, and so in some ways it allows me to map out the journey of this year, and the fact that there were high points through this year was special. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And Rosa.
Yeah, no, same thing. Thank you for the invite and allow me to revisit the movies that just I had to make sure they remain on my top 5 again. I think just reemphasize that it has been a very strong year for films, and even then I still have a lot to catch up on. I haven't seen The Whale yet. I haven't seen Bullet Train, so there's not even Black Adam. I think it just came out on HBO Max, so I still have a lot of catching up to do. Is
Black
that
Adam's
okay?
A movie. It's a movie. It's worth watching.
Yeah. That's what I keep hearing, and also like the ones that are just coming out now, like the one, the Santa one, the one with what's his face?
Oh, it's great. Violent Night.
Yes,
I've heard that consistently. I'm thinking maybe going to see this tonight. I might see Avatar, probably not opening weekend, but I may go see that one tonight.
Yeah, I'm watching Avatar tonight. I know I can't do a double feature watching Avatar, but I can try to watch something tomorrow. But strong year, and thanks for the invite, because just in having these conversations and highlighting movies that a lot of people aren't necessarily too well aware of too. It's pretty cool.
And Falcon saw that movie, The Legend of Mala Jet. There you go.
Oh, nice.
Good. I'll watch the trailer. Yeah. So it's go Pakistan, live up to your potential. Good for you.
And you guys, don't forget to check out Cameron's Patreon, and make sure you guys on your way out have hit the like and you are subscribed to the Latino Slant, because that's really key. All right. Well, there you have it. I think I can tell you for myself, before the end of the year, I will have my biggest disappointments of
Oh, okay.
2022, and I
Well,
will do that. What's that?
well, I have some thoughts on that one too. I mean, I think for me, I'll just throw that as the last thing because it broke my heart. I mean, for me, Babylon was the biggest disappointment.
Okay.
Ooh.
It broke my heart. Yeah, because I love
Biggest
Chazelle so
disappointments.
much.
Well, let's do it right now as far as biggest disappointments. So
Well, just
you're
give one.
saying
I'll just
Babylon.
Babylon, and and people should watch it if they want to. It's a 3 hour movie. It's a 3 hour art film, and it shows the hedonism and the craziness of Hollywood in the silent film era, which is, we think of Hollywood as hedonistic and crazy today. It was even crazier then because they essentially invented the film industry, so everything was new and movie stars were new and everything was crazy. But the problem is that it's just a movie without direction, with incredible cast. Margot Robbie gives a superb performance as a silent film actress who's transitioning to talkies. Brad Pitt does a superb performance as a silent film actor who isn't able to transition to talkies and watches his career vanish at the height of his fame. They're all wonderful. The problem is the story is completely disjointed, and the first 20 minutes are hard to get through. It is essentially an orgy scene, like an Eyes Wide Shut orgy scene in a producer's home, and it's not erotic. It's very repulsive. It's very difficult to watch, and it's just showing how extreme the behavior was and people partying in Hollywood. It's 20 minutes of it, and after 20 minutes of this sort of like intense, like kind of repugnant, behavior in this party, then the title card comes up. You'll go, oh my god! And there's more to this movie, right? And so Chazelle is an incredible artist. I love the fact he experiments. I think he should have taken a lot more time on this script. I think just focusing on Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt's journeys was enough to make a movie, and I wish he had centered it around that.
Rosa, do you have a disappointment of 2022?
Just to something on Babylon that I also have. I miraculously sat through it. I also was I'm mixed on it. I didn't hate it, but a lot I do agree with a lot of what he's saying about the movie. I think my biggest disappointment is it's Blonde. I think Ana de Armas is incredibly great in the film, but just its approach, execution, and everything was just not. It didn't do it. It felt very out there, kind of, I guess, similar to Babylon, in terms of in my humble opinion, what I think is Hollywood's exploitation of Marilyn Monroe told through the exploitation of Ana de Armas, and I'll just leave it at that because
I think you're right. I was disappointed by that film as well. I wanted to love it, because I think her performance is incredible. I just think the script she was given was wrong. It was wrong. I'm a big Marilyn Monroe fan. I know the history, and I think it was wrong to her life and wrong to her history. And I think it exploited her in really inappropriate ways. When I think if she'd been given a good script, this is one of the best performances of Marilyn that I've seen. It's just the wrong story of Marilyn.
I concur. Yeah.
These are great. We're talking about biggest now disappointments of 2022 film-wise. And for me, to close out this segment, in regards to Babylon, I will not see that film because I'm so disappointed that Mexican actor Diego Calva, Diego Calva, went on record putting down the work that he did and the makers of Narcos Mexico. He can take a hike, because where I come from, you do the work and you got to be proud of the work, and you don't put down the people that hired you. I think that's a cheap move. And then from what I hear, it's not
he's
exactly
immature and inexperienced. Yeah.
And from what I hear, you're not exactly doing, high art in this thing as far as a 20-minute orgy at the beginning of the movie. It's like, okay. So that was very disappointed when I then made all the headlines in the wrong way, right? Right. The other thing I'm disappointed in is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, complete garbage as far as the portrayal of Namor, Submariner, and the Mesoamerican mess that was executed in the movie. Also, too, the emasculation of Tenoch Huerta in his character. Don't see it. If you're inclined, if you're like thinking about it, do not. Save your money. Hollywood, in particular, Disney's doing some really weird shit with their depictions of Mesoamerican history right now. which I'm not really too keen on. They did it in Wakanda. Now they're doing it again with National Treasure. And my biggest gripe with that is that a lot of people think that that's real history, what they're doing. It's not. So that's my that's my film disappointment, fellas, lady, Rosa and Cameron.
Okay. Well, let's not end it on a negative note. Let's just end it on the note that we had incredible movies this year, and I'm grateful for that. After what we've been through for the last several years, where many of us couldn't go to theaters, I'm so glad that the movies are back, theaters are back, and I'm looking forward to 2024.
So that's a good note. So what I will do is I'll say goodbye to the panel, and I'll take everyone out. We'll play our list of our videos one more time. I will replay Robert Meyer Burnett's as well. That way we can get the disappointment taste out of our mouths. Thank you, Cameron. I wasn't even gonna do it. I was gonna save it for next week. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. Let me get some files ready. Takes me a second. And let's start off with Cameron's. Take care, everyone.
God bless.
Bye.
And now here are Kamran Pasha's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, and Jeffrey Wright. Coming in at number 4, Prey, starring Amber Mid-Thunder and directed by Dan Trachtenberg. Number 3, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise as well as Miles Teller and Glenn Powell. Coming in at number 2 is the horror hit Smile. And Kamran Pasha's number 1 movie of the year, Elvis, starring Tom Hanks and Austin Butler. Rosa Parra's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise. Number 4, The Menu, with Anya Taylor-Joy and ensemble cast. Number 3, The Banshees of Inisherin, starring Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell. Number 2, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And at number 1 is Everything Everywhere All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh, Rosa Parra's number 1 movie of 2022. And here are Robert Meyer Burnett's top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise. Number 4, Decision to Leave. Number 3, Glass Onion. Number 2, Avatar: The Way of Water. And Robert Meyer Burnett's number 1 movie of 2022, number 1, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Here are my top 5 films of 2022. Number 5, Elvis, starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. Number 4, Top Gun with Tom Cruise. At number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once with Michelle Yeoh and a great ensemble cast. At number 2, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio with such a great soundtrack. And my top number 1 film of all year from India, S.S. Rajamouli's R,
R.
Raju! Akhtar!
As well as some of my friends coming on by to wish you all a Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. That's this Wednesday. Okay, everybody, I'm out. Have a great rest of your weekend. We had almost 60 some odd people here. It was amazing. Much love. Paz y dale gas.